just before the strike, Tony Scott traded to Ute. So now Hendrick will play center. They'll have Sixto, LEZCANO in right. Dean Orge and Tito Landrum in left. Platooning, at least at the outset of the second season. That's the plan. Cardinals lead 1-0, 2 out, bases empty. Top of the first, Keith Hernandez with his 5th home run of the season. Chopping it foul. Watching location, the other thing, of course, will be how far will starting pitchers go, at least in the next couple of weeks. And chances are they won't go very far as Hendrick fouls it away, maybe 60 to 70 pitches tops.
I would have a tendency to agree with you, Al. You know, over the last week, the club's playing exhibition baseball games, and I think every club went along kind of the same line, working 2 or 3 innings for a starter and trying to get your starters work in each exhibition game they play.
Christenson strikes Hendrick out. And the Cardinals are done in the first. They get a run, 3 hits, nobody left. Pete Rose be coming up in the bottom of the first inning with the Cardinals on top, 1-0. Pete Rose, the ovation for Rose as he emerged from the dugout just moments ago. Most of the crowd still standing. The Cardinals lead 1-0 on a home run by Keith Hernandez, but that is all very secondary at the moment. And for those of you watching the Reds and the Dodgers, welcome to Philadelphia, where we have a crowd of close to 60,000. And Pete Rose has already been the recipient of 1 standing ovation. The crowd starting to settle back into their seats and ready to rise again, of course, should Rose be able to pick up career hit number 3,631. There are his figures for the season. Rose 2nd in the league in hitting. Cardinals lead 1-0. So Pete Rose, who picked up his last hit 2 months ago and has worked out religiously at a batting cage in Cincinnati, takes the first pitch outside for a ball. 1-0 the count. Break the tie with Musial. Stand in attendance here tonight as Rose takes inside. 2-0.
You know, FORSCH has got to be feeling a little bit of the heat, too, in this game tonight, Al. This huge crowd, as you said, here, and Pete needing 1 more base hit to break the all-time record.
So the crowd getting on FORSCH because the last thing they want to see FORSCH do is walk Rose.
That's right.
The crowd is impatient. The 2-0 pitch in there. Rose looks at the strike and the count 2-1. Last hit coming off Nolan Ryan on the 10th of June. In that game, he subsequently struck out 3 times. The 2-1 to Rose. A chopper to short. Templeton hit into play. Now let's see how the official scorer rules it. Normally, you'd have to give an error, and they do. It would be homerism of the worst sort. And I'm sure Pete wouldn't want it. Meanwhile, somebody mistakenly sets off the fireworks. The fireworks supposed to go off when Rose breaks the record. And obviously the man who was in charge of such display did a little official scoring himself.
Al, you called it perfectly. A ball that Templeton should have handled very easily. He throws out Rose by at least 5 steps if he makes the play. An error on Templeton.
So Pete Rose is 0 for 1. He'll try again later. Meanwhile, for the Reds-Dodgers viewers, back to the coast and Keith Jackson. Rose at first as Manny Trillo drills one to left field. If it's fair, it's gone, but it's foul. Trillo hooks one into the corner, and the count 0-1. Manny Trillo hasn't played since the 1st of June. Trillo was hurt just prior to the strike. Was out with a full hamstring. So Manny seeing his first action in 2.5 months. Of course, he did play last night in place of Davey Lopes in the All-Star game. Foul back.
Al, you think somebody is calling a local fireworks place around here to recharge those babies?
There's a fella out there with a lot of powder on his face right now, in addition to some eggs.
He made headlines tonight.
Meanwhile, people driving by the ballpark probably figured, hey, he did it.
Ah, well.
No balls, 2 strikes. 1-2 the count. Cardinals leading 1-0.
Can't get over that.
Well, at least we know what the fireworks will look like. Trillo hits one to left center field and deep, but Orge has room and makes the catch. 1 out in the first inning. And Big McBride is the batter. Big McBride underwent knee surgery just prior to the strike. Spent the 2-month layoff, or the better part of it, recuperating and undergoing some rehabilitation. And he says he feels fine. Big, prior to getting injured, had been blazing. He was batting .366 and had hit in his last 8 in a row. Rose at first base, 1 down.
You know, I think that's made it tough on one of these Philly players, Al, the resurgence or the comeback of McBride now. Dick Davis, a guy who played so very, very well in place of McBride. He's a good hitter. He really is, but can't play now.
Davis did an exceptional job in place of McBride when called upon. Dick's hitting .385. One ball, 1 strike to count. McBride hits a chopper foul. One and two. It's nice to know you've got a fellow like Dick Davis on the bench. Davis hit .385 in the games in which he started in place of McBride. Overall, Davis is hitting .379, just a shade shy. 1 ball, 2 strikes to count. McBride at the plate. Bottom of the first inning, 1 down, and Rose at first base. McBride just getting a piece of it and fouling it off the bare hand of Gene Tennis.
Another thing about Davis, Al, when he left Milwaukee, coming from the Brewers here to Philadelphia, when the Phillies got rid of Greg Luzinski, Davis thought he would have a chance to play. He came over here and they were letting him play only against left-handed pitching. He hits right-handers better than he hits left-handers. But with the acquisition of Matthews and now McBride back, he can't play.
That's quite a bench, though, when you know you've got Gross, Unser, and Davis to come off the bench. And Lonnie Smith. Outside, and the count 2-2. When you think about it, if you throw out there 1, 2, and 3 outfielders, the 3 M's, Maddox, Matthews, and McBride, and go through the other 4, 3 of those 4 would easily comprise several teams starting outfield.
Yes, sir.
Pitch, hit in the air to left center field. Orge is there. Van Dane puts this one away for the out, so we have 2 down in the bottom of the first inning with Rose still at first. And last night's hero should get a big response, Mike Smith. Last year's National League MVP, regular season, MVP in the World Series. Might have been their MVP at Super Teams in Hawaii in February, too. Fouls it away. 0-1. By the way, Schmidt has given up his leadership in the National League. He, George Foster, and Dave Kingman were all tied at the time of the strike with 14 home runs. This afternoon, Kingman hit one at Wrigley Field in the game between the Mets and the Cubs. So Dave with his 15th of the season. Schmidt drills it to left center field. Hendrick on the run, has it bounced over his head. But he's able to pick it up as Rose will be held at third on a double by Schmidt. Hendrick just barely got enough of it to slow it down and to prevent the Phillies from tying the game.
Here you see Hendrick coming again. The ball into the air, and Hendrick, as Al said, just getting a piece of it, knocking it down slightly, and that held Rose at third. Now, talking about Hendrick playing in center field, when he played over at Cleveland, I thought he was one of the better center fielders in baseball. He can run. He's got an excellent throwing arm. Of course, everybody knows he can hit, but he did a very good job in the outfield.
It couldn't be much of a transition for him, and the Cardinals did not figure to lose very much defensively by making that move. Gary Matthews at the plate. Runners at second and third with two down. Matt swings and misses on the count of 1-1. Gary came over from Atlanta after Ted Turner, the Braves owner, had told him he wouldn't start. Phillies trading for Matthews just prior to the start of the season. Bob Waugh going to Atlanta as it gets by Kenneth, and Rose scores. So Pete Rose doesn't break the record, gets aboard on an error, but comes home as FORSCH's pitch was in the dirt.
Wild pitch on a breaking ball, charged at FORSCH, and Rose scoring easily, tying it at 1. Ball went right underneath Tennis. Another angle on that breaking ball, and Rose with a good jump scores easily.
Mike Schmidt at third as Matthews hits a two-hopper to second. HERR throws him out. And for the Phillies in the first, they pick up a run, a hit. Cardinals make an error, leave one. After one, we're tied 1-1. Back after a word from our local stations and a message on behalf of Major League Baseball. In the crowd at Philadelphia tonight, a very familiar face, Willie Mays, now working for a casino in Atlantic City, in attendance to watch Pete Rose in his attempt to pass Dan Musial. Of course, Mr. Mays holds a few impressive numbers of his own, including a golf handicap at the current time.
He can play, too. He really can play.
And there, the seat in the first row, white jacket, Stan Musial, who was here 2 months ago tonight when Rose faced Ryan.
He got a reprieve, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Game stayed in the books an extra 60 days.
Boy, he looks good
tonight.
He really looks good.
By the way, Mays, Musial, and Rose each with 3,630 hits. Mays wound up with 3,283.
I was in some heavy company down there, pal.
Yes, sir. Add your total to that, we could have increased it by about 15.
Right.
Dane Orge leading off, hits it fair by third, caroming off the seat. Matthews plays the count perfectly, and his throw, they nail it. So the Cardinals have had 2 men thrown out stealing and another trying to stretch. 4 of the first 5 Cardinals have hit. Yet we've had 4 outs and 1 run.
Ball hit just inside the line by Orge. And Matthews, a fine job playing the carom in short left field, and his throw right on target. Trillo covering in plenty of time. He's waiting for him. Perfect throw by Matthews.
Ken Oberkefell is the batter, taking inside for a ball and the count 1-0. Oberkefell moving from second to third this year. Ken Reed traded to Chicago. Tom HERR taking over at second. And he's done a fine job. The Cardinals are a surging team. Last year, a disaster. This year, a whole other story. The Cardinals led the Eastern Division race, you'll recall, for much of the semi-season. And then the Phillies took over at the end and wound up, unbeknownst to them at the time, of course, clinching it.
Boy, what a change around in their pitching staff from a year ago, Al.
Yep. Got much better pitching, and of course they acquired Bruce Sutter from the Cubs. 2 balls and 2 strikes on Oberkefell. The Cardinals and the Phillies, by the way, were 2 of the 3 teams to vote against the split season concept, as Oberkefell takes just inside, 3-2. The Cards, the Phillies, and the Cincinnati Reds all voted against splitting the season, but it takes a 3/4 vote in the National League to get something passed, and 9 out of 12 said, let's go ahead with it. Broken bat, base hit by Schmidt out in the field. Hit number 5 for the Cardinals. So 5 of the first 6 Cardinals with base hits. And SIXTO LEZCANO, the batter.
You know, Al, I thought we might see this type of baseball in this so-called second half of the season. I thought the hitters would probably be a little bit ahead of the pitchers. I really did. I would think you'd see a tendency to have pitchers throw more fastballs and off-speed stuff. I mean, to try and get some location. They're going to have fair velocity, and as we talked earlier, maybe working 4 innings, 5. I don't think you're going to see guys going more than 6 innings for the first couple of weeks.
0-1 the count. Whitey Herzog, the Cardinal manager, was remarking before the game that he doubted he would let anybody throw more than 60 for a couple of turns each. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Whitey Herzog in the card, not the best profile shot I've seen of Whitey necessarily, but you get the idea.
I recognize him.
Outside. 2-1.
Al, here's a guy I thought was going to be one of the outstanding players in baseball. SIXTO LEZCANO involved in that trade. There's Whitey Herzog. Involved in that trade with Milwaukee, going to St. Louis.
Runner goes, and the pitch is popped up. Larry BOWA making the play for the out, and there are 2 down as Oberkefell retreats to the bag. So 2 gone. And up comes Gene Tennis.
Getting back to LEZCANO, what I said about LEZCANO, a couple of years ago in Milwaukee, Al, he had a super year. 28 home runs, knocked in over 100 runs. Following year, bad year. And involved in that trade with Simmons coming to Milwaukee, along with Roland Fingers, Pete Vukovich. I still think he's got a chance to really be an excellent player, though.
He's going to get a chance now to play every day and right. The pitch is strike and the count 0-1. Gene Tennis, the veteran with Oakland and San Diego prior to coming to St. Louis. 0-2 the count. Gino is in a position now where he'll have to do more catching than Whitey Herzog would like him to. The Cardinals, of course, went out and signed Darryl Porter during the offseason. Hoped that Darryl would take over when they traded Ted Simmons. And, of course, Porter has that rotator cuff injury still bothering him to an extent. They're hopeful he can get back in a couple of weeks, but who knows?
Well, I was talking with Gene Giesel tonight before the game, the Cardinal trainer, Al. They're talking about 2 weeks, possibly 10 days. They say Porter's throwing. The good thing about it was not a complete tear. It was a partial tear, and they're hopeful that he'll be able to come back.
1-2 pitch coming up to Tennis. Missing away in the count even.
It's amazing over the last couple of years, Al, all the rotator cuff tears, and you know, I mean, not pitchers. I'm talking about infielders, catchers.
Gary
Heisel, Milwaukee.
That was an injury that very few people had even heard of a few years ago. Runner goes, pitches high. Boone's throw to second is in the dirt, and this time Oberkefell is safe. So Boone, after throwing out Templeton definitely, and HERR getting the break on the call as the replay proved conclusively, can't throw out Oberkefell.
Again, Oberkefell with a pretty good jump, but this time Boone's throw in the dirt. He was there in plenty of time, throwing the dirt, handled by Trillo.
3-2 with the pitcher on deck. In Tennis, it's a high drive to right center field. Gary MADDOX fading back and over and makes the catch to retire the side. In the second for the Cards, no runs, 2 hits, leave 1 through 1.5. St. Louis 1, Philadelphia 1.
But they're down to the last out.
Come on, Bobby, you're the best. Let's go now. Just take the ball right now. Come on. Come on,
right.
come on now. Let's go. Right now. Last ball. Come on. Right here. All you need is 1. You're right. You'll be a winner right here. Ace it. Beat the ball. Big ball game. Here we go now. All you need is 1 right here.
Oh. There you are, folks. Another great show by the king and his court.
Hey, cheer up, kid. It's Miller time.
If you've got the time, we've got
In the second inning at Philadelphia, the 6, 7, and 8 hitters coming up for the Phillies. It'll be MADDOX, BOWA, and Boone. Dallas Green, last year, leading the Phillies to the World Championship. Through much turmoil, through much of the season, it was felt that Green would manage only last year. Has decided to come back, at least through 81. After that, we don't know.
That was his own decision last year,
yeah.
too, wasn't it, Al?
Well,
He said he didn't want to manage it anymore.
Yeah.
He wanted to go back to his former job working in the front office.
But
what a way to come in and go out.
some of the guys would have liked to have seen Dallas make true on his vow as MADDOX hits the ground to short, and Templeton throws him out by a step. One away. There was no question there was no love lost between some of the Phillies and Dallas Green last year. Green is he's a stand-up guy, though. If you've got a beef with him, you go to him, and he comes right back at you, and you settle it that way. You don't do it through intermediaries or through the press. You take a look at the totals this afternoon at Chicago, where the Mets beat the Cubs in 13 innings, 7-5. Larry Bowa lines one to right field, and coming on is LEZCANO to make the catch. SIXTO is playing shell because Bowa has no power. And there are 2 down. 2 away. Bob Boone is the batter. Hit .235 through the first half of the season. More booing for Boone than any other Philly who's been introduced thus far, simply because he was the National League's player representative. 1-0. It sort of makes him and Doug DeCinci of Baltimore and people like Rusty Staub of the Mets and Steve Rogers of the Expos a bit more of a target than some of the others, since their names were so frequently in the news over the past 2 months. I don't know about you, though. I'm certainly happy to have the Ray and Marvin show over.
Yes, sir. Well, I agree with you. You know, for what transpired and took place over that length of time, that period of time, and how quickly they got it done when they finally did get it done, it was amazing. It really was amazing to get it done that quickly and spend that much time getting to that point.
It's easy to look back in retrospect and say they could have solved it early, but I guess they had to go through what they did to get to a point where they could solve it that quickly. Or at least that's the contention of those who were there. As you look at Red Schoendienst, the former Cardinal manager, now a coach under Whitey Herzog.
Ludwig.
From Germantown. 3-0 pitch is outside, and Boone is on. So Larry Christensen will come up.
You know, that strike time was my time in between starts, Al, you know? I mean, just so I wouldn't lose the edge, you know? Couldn't stay out too long.
That's basically what Bob Sykes, the Cardinal pitcher, had to say. What strike? He said, I'm normally off that long during the season.
Right. Did I miss a turn?
Yeah. Larry Christensen, the batter, and of course, Pete Rose is on deck as Christensen takes time for a ball, 1-0. So there is Rose, who, if you joined us late, tied with Stan Musial, National League's all-time hit leader at 3,630, and reached on an error in the first inning. Christensen fouling it away, and the count 1-1.
Now, talking with Pete and Stan Musial just prior to the start of tonight's game, now, Pete acts so very, very casual about everything, but when you take a look in his eyes, I mean, there's a burning desire. Let's get it going. You know, let's get this thing done and let's get going.
On to the next plateau. He's got Aaron and Cobb in front of him. That's what he's thinking about. 1-2 the count. Cardinals 1, Phillies 1. Another look at Musial with Rose out on deck. We're in the bottom of the second inning with 2 down. Bob Boone at first base. The 1-2 delivery is high. 2-2. Christensen can hit. Larry with 10 career home runs and at least 1 in each of the last 6 seasons. So he's not an automatic. The 2-2 pitch is high, ball 3. 3-2. FORSCH, normally with exceptional control, Last year averaged only 1.38 walks per 9 innings. That was best in the league. Runner will go. The 3-2 pitch to Christensen is fouled away. 3-2 as Boone retreats to first on a very warm, humid night in Philadelphia. Temperature in the mid-80s. And Veterans Stadium just about full. A few empty seats up in the nether reaches of the upper deck in center field. 3-2 pitch is hit in the air to center field. So Rose will have to wait until the third inning as Hendrick takes care of Christensen. And the Phillies are disposed of here in the second inning. So it's on to the third at Veterans Stadium. Cardinals 1, Phillies 1. Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. Al Michaels and Bob Uecker. Baseball's second season. And again, this will be our only Monday night telecast for the balance of the year. We will, however, beginning this Sunday, pick it up each Sunday afternoon through the balance of the 1981 season. And you'll see the World Series this fall on ABC in late October, maybe early November.
Could be the second half of that Detroit Lions game on Thanksgiving. A doubleheader. Final game of the World Series and the Lions Thanksgiving game. Look for it, fans.
The extra tier of playoffs, of course, will get underway at the end of the regular season. And this year, the regular season does not end until Sunday, October 4th.
They could combine the super teams with the World Series and the...
Getting like the NBA, isn't it?
That's right.
Take about 2 weeks off and tool it up again. Bob FORSCH leading off for the Cardinals in the third inning. Game tied 1-1. FORSCH, Templeton, and HERR, the 9-1 and 2 hitters facing Larry Christensen. Cardinals have 5 hits, but they've had 3 men thrown out on the base paths. FORSCH looks at a strike. 0-1. Waved at and missed. FORSCH's brother Ken in action last night in the All-Star game. Now pitching, of course, for the California Angels after performing for many years at Houston. Down he goes quickly. So 1 down. Gary Templeton is the batter. When we were in St. Louis in June, Templeton talking about wanting to be traded, and especially to the West Coast. So he's had a couple of months off now, and I asked him before the game tonight if he still wanted to be traded to a team in California.
The teams out there was willing to give up something for me, and I think right now I don't think any teams would be willing to give up anything for me. And I still like St. Louis, and that's where I started out. And if they can continue to make me happy there, I'd like to stay there. But if not, then I'd like to move on to the West Coast.
Well, you missed the initial response of Templeton, who basically said in the interview that he would still like to play for a team on the West Coast, and had gone so far as to, before the strike, even suggest a possible trade involving at that time Tony Scott, who was subsequently traded to Houston, which is not even the West Coast of Texas. But Gary is still around.
Gary didn't mention anything about Portland or Vancouver, did he?
Or Hawaii. If you're going to get farmed out, that's where you want to play. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Swung on and missed, and down goes Templeton. So there are 2 down. Gary, of course, has been involved in controversy for quite some time. The All-Star game scene last year, if he wasn't starting, he wasn't departing, and talking about leaving St. Louis from time to time. I have a tough time, Uke, as Herb stands in, really figuring out what it is that Gary wants.
I don't know what makes him happy, Al. I know he's making a tremendous salary. I don't know how happy you can get salary-wise.
He says in one breath, I'm happy with St. Louis, and the other breath, I want to move out to the West Coast. Varies in his response from time to time, so it's somewhat difficult to get a read on exactly what it is he wants.
I always thought he looked nice in Cardinal blue. It really is amazing, though. He's been a good player. He can be an outstanding player. And this is a good Cardinal ball club, Al. Excellent club. And he's a very big part of it. And I just think it causes chaos in the ball club. You know, you keep talking about it, popping off about it, and, you know, all of a sudden players say, well, get rid of it. You know, let's get him out of here and get settled back to playing baseball.
Exactly. 2-1 pitch is fouled away in the count of 2-2. Well, that's a decision, obviously, that will have to be made down the line by the Cardinals front office. Because if you are indeed going to trade away a Gary Templeton, you've got a big hole to fill. 2 balls, 2 strikes to count. Chopper, Trillo there near second, and throws him out. So Christenson settles down in the third. The Cardinals go out 1-2-3. And at the end of 2.5, it's the Cardinals 1 and the Phillies 1. And again, we welcome those of you watching the Reds and the Dodgers here in Philadelphia. We're in the bottom of the 3rd inning, and here's Pete Rose to lead things off against Bob FORSCH. Earlier, Rose on a chopper reached on an error on an appropriate call by the official scorer tonight, who is Bob Kenny of the Camden Courier-Post. The only flaw was that the fireworks that would signal Rose's record-breaking hit went off on a miscue from Philly Vice President Bill Giles, who is on a walkie-talkie and is supposed to say, go, go. Instead, he said, no, no, as Rose takes a strike. And the man who's in charge of setting off the fireworks misinterpreted Giles's command.
The man who used to be in charge of the fireworks.
The 0-1 pitch. Instead, time is called. The plate umpire, Nick Colosi, and the second base umpire, Eric Gregg. Something coming out of the stands. And that is taken care of, so Rose can settle back in. At the age of 40. Came up in 1963. Tied with Musial. 3,630 hits. The strike 1 pitch to Rose is outside. Rose would be the first guy to tell you he would not have wanted a hit on the chopper in the 1st inning.
I agree with you, Al. He wants a base hit, a solid base hit. He wants a rip base hit.
Up and in the count 2-1. Cards 1, Phillies 1. Bottom of the 3rd. Rose, second in the league to Art Howe in hitting. Batting .329. Bouncer steered nicely by FORSCH, and so Rose will have to wait another turn. So Pete is 0 for 2 tonight, and there's 1 down in the 3rd inning. So we'll check on Rose later. Meanwhile, those of you watching the Reds and the Dodgers, back to Dodger Stadium. 1 out. Bases empty. Manny Trillo flied out in the 1st inning. Trillo hitting .290. FORSCH missing outside. 1-0 the count. Ball 2. Fourth in the league in that department. Fewest base runners per 9 innings. Nepper leading the league in ERA. And Valenzuela, the starter last night in the All-Star game. 2-2 the count.
Yeah, you know, the more I watch Manny Trillo and really not having a chance to see him that much with the Cubs, this guy is really a solid player. Excellent second baseman. He can hit with a little power for you, run. He can do everything.
Grounded to short. Short hop by Templeton. Garry throws him out. And there are 2 down. The Trillo is gone. And it'll bring up McBride. There's no question the Phillies are a very solid team, which stand to reason, of course. They are the world champions. But from time to time, of course, teams go all the way and have various holes. But when you look around, the starting 8 for Philadelphia, plus their starting staff, plus a very deep bullpen and a good bench, there's not much missing.
Really not much missing with this ball club, Al, but also a veteran ball club. And how many times do you see it happen where a club all of a sudden and they, you know, a real great veteran ball club that wins consistently, and all of a sudden, bang, they're gone. All of a sudden, they get all old in a hurry, and there's nobody there behind them.
Exactly. 1-0 pitch is lined to center field. Hendrick on the move, had a little bit of trouble with the lights, but stays with it, and the side is retired. So both teams go out in order. In the third, we'll move along to the fourth before a big crowd at Veterans Stadium. It's the Cardinals 1 and the Phillies 1. By now, you all know about the split season concept and the fact that we mentioned before, the Cardinals were one of 3 teams, along with Philadelphia and Cincinnati, to vote against that plan, but they were overruled by the other 9 National League clubs. Whitey Herzog, the general manager of St. Louis, before the game, I asked him to explain the Cardinal position.
Well, basically, we thought that if it was so good now, why wasn't it good the last 50 years, or why won't it be good next year? And they said this is a once-in-a-lifetime situation. But to me and the Cardinal organization, we really thought that we had races going in each division, and we felt starting August 10th that if we'd continued the poor races we had, that we'd be doing the fans a lot better than we're trying to deceive them now, and everybody's starting even. I just felt that it was the best way to go. Mr. Bush felt that way, and the whole Cardinal organization did.
Keith Hernandez leading off with a base hit here in the 4th inning is now 2 for 2 tonight, and that's hit number 6 off Christenson as George Hendrick comes to the plate. I personally, and then, you know, I'm sure fans are taking sides here, I don't like it, I definitely don't like the fact that a team wins both halves, and then they still have to go into a divisional playoff. And the only thing that concerns me is that they're going to find that it might be moderately successful, at least in a relative sense, and then institute it in the future. And pretty soon it'll become like the National Hockey League when you play an entire season to eliminate, what is it, 5 out of 21 teams?
I totally agree with you, Al. I think the first time it was mentioned about a split season, I was totally against it. You know, you look at it this way, too, Al. The clubs who haven't been drawing and winning probably will not draw anyway. I mean, if you win, you're going to draw. No matter what.
School's out after Labor Day anyway. Exactly. Attendance would be down. 1-1 pitch. Broken bat fly ball. Shallow center field. Maddox got a good throw and makes... One down. Maddox going a long way to take care of Hendrick. The Mets winning today in 13 at Chicago. Meanwhile, tonight, 6th inning at Montreal Pirates, and the Expos tied 1-1. 3rd inning, Dodgers lead the Reds 4-0. Dean Orch, the batter. Base hit in the 2nd inning. To me, the beauty of baseball has been that you play a full season and you determine a true champion. And you don't have the wild card stuff and all that other junk that you've got in football and basketball. That's ridiculous.
How many times do you see it where the second division clubs late in the season knock off the contending clubs and really make a race out of it for any division? I don't care what the division is. There are some big clubs, there are some leading clubs, tough clubs that have trouble with second division clubs.
Orge looks at a strike. But then again, those opposed will brand those of us.
I'm for it. We're back working.
Yeah, right. They'll be branded as traditionalists and not wanting to see any change. It's a curious issue, and it'll be interesting to see with what reception it is met when the divisional playoffs do take place in October. Strike 1 pitch. 1-1. It'll be tough to gauge, though, because what it'll amount to is that the teams obviously in it, the fans are going to be happy, especially if the team that, let's say, doesn't win either half and gets in. They're going to love it.
That's right.
One pitch is hit right back through the box and out into center field for base hit. Hernandez stopping at second. So Orge has his 2nd hit. The throw getting through and the crowd responding as Christenson backed up Schmidt at 3rd. And the batter will be Ken OBERKFELL.
Now we're talking at the top of the telecast about both respective managers talking about maybe 60, 65 pitches for each pitcher tonight. You look at Christenson, he's got to be around there now. He's got to be getting close now, early in the ball game. Spaced. 7 hits very nicely so far. But he's been in trouble in every inning. with the exception of the third.
Oberkefell lines it by Schmidt and down into the corner. Hernandez will come in to score as the Cardinals take the lead. Matthews now playing it on the warning track as Orge rounds third, and Trillo drops the throw. Manny was backing up BOWA on the relay, and the Cardinals are out in front, 3-1. So Larry Christensen with just that 1-1-2-3 inning. And they're teeing off on him here in the fourth. And the Phillies will get busy in the bullpen shortly. So Oberkefell with a double. 2 runs batted in. Christensen has now faced a total of 15 Cardinals and given up 8 hits. LEZCANO takes a pitch outside, 1-0.
I look at LEZCANO, Al, hitting at 268 for the Cardinals. When LEZCANO is at his best, he's got excellent power to right center field. He hit a few home runs back in Milwaukee a couple of years ago and tried to change himself into a pull hitter, and it's really hurt him. It really has. He can hit the ball to all fields, and he can hit with power to right field, right center.
LEZCANO 2 years ago hit 321 with the Brewers, then last year all the way down to 229. Pops it up. Rose is calling for it. 2 down. So Pete 0 for 2 at the plate tonight. Handling LEZCANO's pop-up as Gene Tennis comes up. Tennis flied out in the second inning. First base open, FORSCH on deck. Doesn't figure that Gene will see anything very decent to look at. Cardinals on top 3-1, and in the bullpen, Sparky Lyle up and throwing for Philadelphia. One and oh. Oberkefell at second. 2 out in the fourth inning. On Gino TENACE, World Series hero in 1972. Has it been that long? In tennis, and the A's won the first of their 3 consecutive world titles. Beat the Reds in 7 that year. 1-1 pitch is outside. 2-1 the count.
We talked about tennis earlier, Al. Excuse me, about having to catch more than Whitey Herzog would want him to catch right now. He's really never been that hot about catching anyway over the last probably 5 or 6 years. He's got a little bigger too, hasn't he?
2-2 the count.
But he goes and plays. I mean, he'll play any place. He doesn't care, but he'd rather play someplace on. He's not going to play at first base. Backing away. Oberkefell, the runner at second. Cardinals leading the Phillies 3-1. Fourth inning, humid night. Christensen working up a good lather. And a half swing and a foul tip held by Boone for strike 3. Christensen picks up his 4th strikeout, but here in the inning, the Cardinals come up with a couple of runs, 3 hits. As we take a look again, it's strike 3. Tennis just barely getting a piece of it. Boone holding on. So at the end of 3.5 at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, the Cardinals out in front of the Phils, 3-1. The Philadelphia Phillies with the middle of the order coming up in the bottom of the 4th inning. Mike Schmidt will be leading things off. As you can see graphically, Schmidt approaching the 300 mark in career home runs and has teed off 6 times against FORSCH. Interestingly, though, Mike has not hit a home run since the 23rd of May. Strike started on the 12th of June. Mike got off to a blazing start. He hit 14 home runs by the 23rd of May. He hasn't hit a home run in this ballpark since the 8th of May, over 3 months. So Schmidt to lead off. Of course, I say he hasn't hit a home run since the 23rd of May, not counting last night's shot. Really an amazing stat, though, Al, when you look at Mike Schmidt. He's got tremendous power. He hit the ball right center field. And to go that long without hitting a home run, it really is kind of unbelievable.
He doubled in the first inning tonight. FORSCH deals, and Schmidt fouls it away. And the count is 0-2. Cardinals 3 runs, 8 hits, and 1 error. The Phillies 1 run, 1 hit. The double by Schmidt. No errors.
I'm talking with Schmidt before the game tonight about the home run he hit off Fingers last night. He said he was really surprised that Fingers threw him a slider. He said he thought he would see hard stuff and something that he really couldn't handle, something that he couldn't hit that hard, but Fingers threw the slider and he hit it.
Dead center. One and 2 the count. Schmidt, Matthews, and MADDOX facing FORSCH in the 4th. Two and 2. So the count full now, 3 and 2 on the Philly cleanup hitter. Gary Matthews, the man on deck, off to a good start prior to the strike in his first season with the Phillies. Gary, of course, was the man who had to take over when Greg Luzinski was dealt off to the White Sox. Schmidt popping it up to the right side. Keith Hernandez ready to pull it in. 1 down. So Matthews coming up. Gary coming over in the deal for Bob Walk in the preseason, and I asked Matthews before the game about life in Philadelphia and how he's been treated thus far.
Well, I think pretty good after the first night. I think, you know, with Greg Luzinski being here for a number of years and having the success that he had here, I think it was only natural because he had a lot of fans here in Philadelphia, and I thought after they saw my style of play that they would welcome me here. And I haven't heard any boos at all as of late, and I just plan to keep playing the way that I have been playing, and I'm sure things are going to work out.
Matthews hitting a fly ball to center field where Hendricks makes the catch, and there are 2 down. Matthews has a different style of play, but you've seen Gary over the years enough, Duke, to know that Matthews gives you everything he's got. He doesn't go about it necessarily in the most orthodox manner, but he's the kind of guy that will go into a wall for you if he has to, put his nose down on the AstroTurf.
I think you made a key point, Al, when you said he does it in a rather unorthodox manner sometimes. I've always liked him. You know, gotten along good with him.
Good guy.
It's hard to imagine sometimes how players get bad raps when you know differently about them. When you're around them all the time, or you do interviews with them and participate in games or broadcast games that they play, and they're totally different players, and sometimes it comes out in the press.
0-2 the count on MADDOX. Also, you know, a lot of times with television now in the Cups, and let's face it, local telecasts, oftentimes a parallel network telecast and quality, you get to really take a close look at a guy, and Gary does most angelic of faces, too. He looks like a tough guy, a brute.
That's right.
Two pitch is low, and the count 2-2.
I said the same thing about Wallace Berry and Marjorie Main.
Yeah, but they couldn't turn the double play. That was their problem. Two balls, 2 strikes on MADDOX. 2 out, base is empty. Bottom of the 4th inning, 3-1 St. Louis. Soft liner by Templeton. Gary thought he had an easy play. The glove was there, but the ball wasn't.
I thought he had an easy play, too, Al. Really did. The ball should have been caught. Here it is one more time. The ball should have been caught by Templeton. Right there around the kneecap area. Off his glove.
Handcuffed himself a bit, too, when he came over. Scorer. We have none yet, as Larry BOWA stands in. A strike and the count 0-1. It's got to be an error.
I think so, Al. I always thought the scores here in Philadelphia were always more than fair and really new baseball. Balls that should have been caught legitimately.
Yeah, they've done a good job here over the years. No doubt about it. They know the game, and they don't let homerism enter in. 1 ball, 1 strike. Scored as an error. Going to get second error of the evening. Maddox at first base with 2 down. 1 ball, 1 strike on BOWA. Runner goes, and BOWA pops it up. Second baseman Tommy HERR is right there, and that's that for Philadelphia here in the 4th. No runs, no hits, an error by Templeton, man left on through 4 full. In Philadelphia, it remains the Cardinals 3 and the Phillies 1. 5th inning in Philadelphia. Al Michaels along with Bob Uecker as Bob FORSCH comes up for the Cardinals. 4 through 4 innings on the mound tonight has allowed just 1 hit. He'll be followed by Templeton and HERR. Larry Christensen working on his opposite number as FORSCH fouls it back. An interesting contrast in how the 2 pitchers were acquired by their clubs, both through the draft. Christensen was a first-round draft choice, and FORSCH was picked on the 38th round. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Not only was FORSCH picked on the 38th round, he was picked as an infielder. Mike SCHMIDT handles this one on a hop and takes care of the erstwhile third baseman.
What was FORSCH when he started? He was an infielder, Al, when he started for a couple of years, wasn't he? Played the infield 3 years and then started pitching. I think it's a little easier to understand if you get picked in the 38th round as an infielder than in the 38th round as a pitcher.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a catcher and you get picked in the 38th round,
If you're a defensive
you're in the
back,
service.
You've got no chance. Gary Templeton. 1-0 the count. Templeton is known and struck out. Templeton, far more proficient this season, left-handed than right-handed. It's a chopper to the right side. Manny TRILLO throwing them out. Gary came into action tonight, hitting .286 against righties and only .208 against lefties. Update the American League for you at Baltimore. The Royals and Orioles 2-2 in the 7th inning. White Sox are leading Boston 3-1 in the 6th. Dotson started. Lamb came on in relief in that one for Chicago. Milwaukee leads Cleveland 2-1 in the 8th inning. Vukovic started with Augustine and now Fingers on in relief. HERR hits a grinner to short, juggled but covered by BOWA. Throws him out. 3 grounders in a quick inning for Larry Christensen, setting the Cardinals in order for the 2nd time tonight. And through 4 1/2, with Rose coming up 3rd, bottom of the 5th, 3-1 Cards. Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, just about packed tonight. As I mentioned before, just a few empty seats in the upper deck in the outfield. As we pan around, you can see some streaks of yellow in the nether regions of the upper deck, and those are basically the only areas in the ballpark. A park that holds in excess of 60,000, so if I had to guess, I would say we're talking maybe 55 tonight. Cardinals ahead 3-1. It'll be Boone, Christensen, and then the man everybody's waiting for, Pete Rose, in the bottom of the 5th inning.
Now, you know, we talked earlier about the pitchers maybe having a tough time really getting going and to work more than 5 or 6 innings. I wonder about the catchers, too, the guys that are up and down all the time after that much time off, if they've had enough time to put in work or if they stayed reasonably active during the interruption. It'll be a little tough on them. You know, there's some guys that, it was really funny, some guys said they worked out 3 and 4 times a week, but when you saw them come back, it didn't look that way. It really didn't.
Boone takes a strike. I am sure there was a great disparity as to the length duration and the heart that a lot of these fellas put into their strike-bound workouts. As Boone ups it up, and HERR makes the play. One away with Christensen, the batter. Instead, it will be Greg Gross now, who emerges from the dugout. Gross to bat for Christensen. And I'm sure this went pretty much according to plan for down the screen, despite the fact Christensen was not particularly a mystery tonight, giving up 3 runs, 8 hits. Even had he pitched shutout ball through 5, he probably would have been out of here about this point. So Greg Gross, line drive type hitter, likes to go the other way. Outfield plays him toward left. 1-0 the count. Pete Rose on deck. Look at the alignment. There's the man of the moment. One with his son. A strike. And the count 1-1. Bases empty. Bottom of the 5th inning. Cardinals leading 3-1. Short 1 the count. Pete Rose, Jr. and Senior. Little Petey.
He talks as much baseball.
12 years old.
He really does. He loves it.
Serving as a Philly bat boy. 3-1 the count. Grounded to short. Templeton Douglas gets the handle and throws him out. So 2 down. And Pete Rose coming up. Welcome those of you watching the Reds and the Dodgers to Philadelphia, where with 2 out and the bases empty in the bottom of the 5th inning, in a game the Cardinals are leading 3-1, Pete Rose comes to the plate. Still tied with Musial at 3,630. Hit a chopper in the 1st inning, which Templeton couldn't handle, and then hit a comebacker in the 3rd, on which Force made a nice play. Bounced toward the middle, backhanded by HERR, and Rose is 0 for 3. So the countdown is still on. The Phillies go out in order here in the 5th inning. Rose still looking for the elusive 3,631st hit. Those of you watching the Reds and the Dodgers, back to the coast. Going to the 6th inning now, the Cardinals on top, 3-1, and the Philly Fanatic, generally ranked number 2 as far as mascots are concerned, to only the San Diego Chicken.
I love this guy.
Most
I really do.
It's good for the concentration for Hernandez.
Al, the last time we were here doing the Philadelphia Phillies, you look at Sparky Lyle, who's come on to work now. Doing the Philadelphia Phillies Houston game, I was down on the field. We were going to do an opening from the field, and the Fanatic grabbed me before I had a chance to see him and put one on me, man. It was unreal. So when he talks about spitting and what he does, woo!
Sparky Lyle out of the bullpen to face Hernandez, Hendrick, and Ord. Cardinals leading 3-1. Hernandez homered in the 1st. Bills got even in the bottom of the 1st. Cards picking up 2 in the 4th. Ken Oberkfell, the 2-run double to drive in the go-ahead run. Sparky Lyle, 5-1, but his ERA is high, 4.37. Lyle appearing tonight in his 828th career appearance, 6th on the all-time list. Count 2-1. Hernandez lining at the center field, but Maddox is there to make the catch. And this program is being brought to you as an exclusive presentation of ABC Sports. 5-second pause here to allow our local stations to identify themselves.
WLUK, TV 11, Green Bay.
One out, bases empty in the 6th inning. Al Michaels and Bob Uecker at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. George Hendrick looks at a strike. Hendrick has struck out and fly to center. To right field. McBride has a 360, and she's gone. That one did not necessarily look like it was going out when he hit it, but it just kept on going. As Hendrick hits one into the tarpaulin. Back of the right field fence, home run number 11.
He got a hanging slider that time from Lyle, upstairs and right on the middle, and he banged it out of here in right field. One thing we talked about earlier, our location with these guys, and Sparky Lyle has been doing this year in and year out, one time after another, sliders. But this one's right down the pipe, and Hendricks drilled it out of here. It really amazes me, Al, that Lyle has been that successful all these years and throws a slider, just one after another, occasionally a fastball. Great slider, and his location has always been letter perfect.
Dean Orge pushing one through the hole and out into right field for a base hit.
For the majority of the time.
Yeah. Orge is 3 for 3 tonight, and the Cardinals have 10 hits. 8 off Christenson in his 5 innings of work, and now 2 off Lyle. As Ken Oberkefell comes up.
When you talk about pitching, Al, and pitching coaches emphasizing fastball, slider, curve, you got to have this and you got to have that. And then you see a guy like Lyle who has done this for so long. You wonder sometimes if other pitchers can't get away with one pitch. If you have location, if you got that kind of control.
Time called. Umpire's looking up into the seats there. There it is. It's a light in the press box area. Obviously shining in the eyes of a player or two. That is remedied, and the pitch to Oberkefell is up high for a ball. 1-0 the count. Count. Yeah, it's sort of odd to have a relief pitcher anyway who just has one pitch. Certainly they have specialties.
Well, there are guys who can come in a ball game and throw fastballs consistently by you. But here's a guy, yeah, but Sparky Lyle has never been a real hard thrower. And
right.
Basically the guys who are real power pitchers can do that. Although Gossard's got a great slider, too.
Mm-hmm.
But Lyle has just done it with a slider, basically a slider. He's thrown other pitches once in a while, but it's been basically a slider.
And there's Tug McGraw, his teammate, who, of course, his staple is the screwball. But Tug does have other stuff.
But he's got a curveball, fastball, decent fastball. You can look for stuff off McGraw, and he can throw a fastball by you.
Well, there's a guy in the ballpark tonight who has just one basic pitch, but it's a pretty good one for the Cardinals through Suter. The split-fingered fastball.
Right.
That's all he really needs. Ball 4. Oberkefell is aboard, and the Cardinals have runners at first and second with one away. And SIXTO LEZCANO coming up. This telecast, presented by authority of Major League Baseball, intended solely for the private non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of Major League Baseball is prohibited. So take that dish down in your backyard.
That's right.
LEZCANO at the plate. Fouls it away. 0-1. Dallas Green, in his second year, is the manager of the Phillies. Victorious last night in Cleveland. Little bouncer, left side. BOWA to trio for one. Back on to first, and Rose had to come off the bag. So the inning is still alive for the Cardinals as LEZCANO is aboard, and Orge advances to third.
And again, when I was talking about earlier, Al, there's a ball at LEZCANO. Normally, when he is right with drive hard to right field, he tried to pull the ball. BOWA, now trio, and a high throw pulling Rose off the bag just momentarily, allowing LEZCANO to reach.
Gene Tennis grounds it to third. Schmidt, tricky hop, recovers, throws to second, just in time there. So Mike had trouble last night in Cleveland, and again tonight, but it doesn't cost him. In the sixth inning, the Cardinals pick up a run on the opposite field homer by Hendrick. 2 hits, leave a couple. Through 5.5, St. Louis 4, Philadelphia 1. Dean Rose looking on in the Philadelphia dugout. Rose, of course, made the last out in the bottom of the 5th inning, joined by Billy DeMars, one of the Philly coaches, as the Phillies send up Trillo, McBride, and Schmidt here in the bottom of the 6th inning to face Mark Littell, who comes on in relief of Bob FORSCH. FORSCH pitched very well tonight. 5 innings, 1 run, gave that one up on a wild pitch in the 1st inning. Allowed only 1 hit, a double by Schmidt in the 1st. Walked 1, didn't strike out anybody. And Mark Littell comes on in relief here. Littell, 6'3", 210-pounder. 28 years old. Cardinals picked him up just prior to the 1978 season after a successful stint at Kansas City. Manny Trillo fouling it away in the count 0-1. Littell has been bothered with injuries. He was on the disabled list earlier this season. Consequently, he worked only 10 2/3 innings prior to the strike and had no decisions. 0-2 the count.
Here's a guy, Al, with Kansas City, was one of the premier relief pitchers in the American League. Had a couple of really good years with Kansas City. He was strictly a power type pitcher. He had a great fastball and an excellent slider. And then after being acquired by the Cardinals, as you said, the injuries had bothered him. He's been plagued by injuries. He's lost a little bit off the fastball, and he's not that kind of pitcher anymore where he can just reach back and get it by you consistently.
Last season was a wasted one for him. 0-2, went on the disabled list June 1st. Underwent surgery on July 5th. Didn't pitch again until the Florida Winter Instructional League. And more repair work was done. So it's been a long and a pretty tough road back for Mark. Comebacker off the glove of Littell, and Mark might have had a play, but that cost him. Had Littell fielded it cleanly and fired, he might have had a chance to get Trillo. Very close.
Here it is one more time. The ball hit sharply back to Littell. As Al said, once the ball got by him and bounced off him, if he grabs it coming down, he's got a play on Trillo, but he bobbled the ball again, allowing Trillo to reach, and I believe they'll score a base hit. The ball hits sharply back to Littell as he goes down.
It is scored as a hit, and Bake McBride is the batter. McBride is fly to left and fly to center. He's 0-2. When Littell was the mainstay of the Kansas City bullpen a few years back, of course, his manager was the same man who's at the helm right now, Whitey HERZOG.
Now, his first year with the Cardinals, too, we talked about him being a power pitcher. In 106 innings, he struck out 130. He won 4, lost 8 that year, but his excellent earned run average, 2.80. Hopefully, and getting back to what he was before.
McBride lining at the center field. Hendrick is there to make the catch. One away.
You wonder, too, Al, about guys like Littell, the good power pitchers, the guys who record a lot of strikeouts. As you look at George Hendrick, so many pitches they throw. Game after game, all the strikeouts. It's got to take something out of you, too. Sooner or later, you can't have that good fastball anymore.
A reminder, Sunday afternoon baseball beginning this Sunday. You'll either see the White Sox at Baltimore or the Cardinals at Montreal. Getting underway at 2 o'clock Eastern time. And then the premiere of ABC Sports Beat with Howard Cosell, getting underway at 4:30 Eastern time. A new dimension in sports television. It's Mike Schmidt pops it up down the line. The second baseman, HERR, is calling for it and gauges it correctly for the out. 2 down with Trillo still at first base. And Gary Matthews coming up. The Yankees, the winner in their second season opener, as they beat Texas 2-0. Tommy John got the win over Danny Darwin. Each team with only 3 hits.
Say how many innings John went in that game, Al? Find out how many innings he went in that game.
We'll check it out. Nettles and Gamble homered for each his 8th. Gary Matthews, a swing and a miss from the count 0-1. 2 out. Manny Trillo at first base. Bottom of the 6th inning. The Cardinals leading 4-1. To the count. The strike 2 delivery, missing away.
That good slider from Littell that we were talking about earlier, and that's basically what he has, a fastball and a slider. And when he was right, and when he is right, the slider, he's as good with the slider as he is with the fastball, Al. Hits inside with it, and basically staying away from guys around the outside quarter. And down. He's got a good one.
The 1-2 pitch is outside. 2-2.
You talk about sliders, and it's basically the one that goes down and away from a right-handed batter, from a right-handed pitcher, that is really the good slider. That flat slider that stays on one plane, which many times we refer to as a hanging slider, but the good one goes down and away like that.
Little chopper to Tommy HERR. That's that for Matthews. That's that for the Phillies. No runs. They pick up a hit. Strand trio here in the 6th inning. So we go to the 7th at the vet, where it's quiet right now. The Cardinals leading 4-1. In the 7th inning, Tito Landrum, who went in to play left field when the Phillies were at bat in the bottom of the 6th inning, and is hitting in the number 9 position. Leading off, Gary Templeton and Tommy HERR will follow. Tito Landrum, batting .225, takes low and outside. Defensively for the Phillies, it's Lonnie Smith taking over in right field with McBride coming out. To right center field, and nobody will get there. That one will go all the way through. Gary MADDOX to chase it down the warning track, and Landrum pulls in at second with a double. So the Cardinals have come out with their bat smoking tonight. 11 hits in 6+ innings.
Here it is one more time, and again a slider from Lyle right down the middle. And Landrum banging that ball to right center field off the wall. MADDOX holding him to a double, but the ball was upstairs, and again, Lyle's location bad. It's going to be the big thing with these guys for at least a week to 10 days, Hal, before they get straightened out.
Gary Templeton lays one down, foul, 0-1.
But again, going back to the split season, Al, here's a good case now. I mean, say the Phillies get off to a bad start or really don't play that well in the second half. You said the pitching staff to get straightened out and get things going. They've wrapped the first half up. There's nothing to worry about.
They're in. Not only that, you get down at the end of September or the first part of October, as the case is this year, and you just realign your rotation for the playoffs.
That's right.
Foul away, and the count 0-2.
But again, the playoffs and the split season, as we said earlier, there are clubs that aren't going to draw and want a split season, and I hope everybody draws. I hope they all draw, but it just doesn't happen that way.
Foul away, and the count remains 0-2. By the way, we checked it out. Tommy John in that Yankee victory went 8 innings.
Wow.
8 innings. Rudy May came out of the bullpen to work tonight as the Yankees beat Texas 2-0. Templeton lining it to right field. Lonnie Smith, known as Skate, can't handle this one as it bounces back in. Tito Landrum around third to score, and the Cardinals are on top 5-1. Templeton with his second hit. The Cardinals interestingly enough, 5th in the league in hitting collectively. Their team batting average only 259, but the difference this year with St. Louis is they're making it pay off, as we have another look at this.
There's that ball hit by Templeton, and Smith coming on, trying to make the catch on it. Kept the ball in front of him, knocked him down, holding Templeton to a single, but a run scores.
Swing and a miss by HERR, 0-1.
That's a... It really did.
What's interesting, though, Uke, is that, as I say, they're making it pay off. The Cardinals, prior to the strike, had the second best average as far as runs per game were concerned. The Reds were the most productive team in the league run-wise, and the Cardinals second, averaging about 4.5 per game.
A year ago, they were one of the better hitting clubs in baseball.
Yeah, but they're not necessarily
and again,
making
the pitching staff.
Yeah, pay off.
Complete turnaround.
That's the key thing there.
Right.
Matter of fact, last year the Cardinals wound up leading the league in hitting. Outside, throw to first base, and Rose was moving in as HERR had squared the bunt. 1-1. Templeton at first base. Nobody out in the 7th inning. 5-1 Cardinals. Bunted foul. And count 1-2. Very quiet crowd at the moment. Of course, they have risen to the occasion each time Pete Rose has appeared tonight. But if you tuned in late, Rose, in his quest to surpass Stan Musial's mark, and the one that Pete now, of course, shares, is 0 for 3, having reached on an error and grounded out twice. Rose would be due up 5th in the bottom of the 7th as HERR is down on strikes. 1 away.
I wonder what kind of notation they put on Musial's hotel reservation.
He's already been there 2 months.
Will you be staying with us for one night? I really don't know.
There it is graphically with John going 8 innings in that Yankee victory. Keith Hernandez looks at the strike with Templeton moving, and Garry is thrown out again. He got a very tardy start, and Boone's throw was right there, and so Templeton is thrown out for the 2nd time in the game, and Boone has thrown out 3 of 4 would-be base stealers.
As you said, Al, kind of a tardy start, but Boone, an excellent throw this time. Right on the money with Larry BOWA covering. He was waiting for Templeton. Plenty of time to get him. Number 3 for Boone tonight. That's another thing, and we talked about it earlier. I can't believe that Boone can be that bad of a thrower, but I guess catchers like anybody else, you get into that kind of a slump, it bothers you. It hurts you.
Hernandez gets sawed off at the plate, and BOWA takes care of the pop-up. And the Cardinals are done here in the 7th inning, but they stretch their advantage. Pick up a run. 2 hits. Another look at Boone's. Throw down a second to take care of Garry Templeton. As we go to the bottom of the 7th inning, it's the Cardinals leading the Phillies 5-1. The Cardinals on top 5-1. As we go to the bottom half of the 7th inning. And for Philadelphia, Gary Maddox, Larry BOWA, and Bob Boone. Mark Littell on in relief of Bob FORSCH for the Cardinals. FORSCH pitched very well tonight. Littell in his 2nd inning of work. And, of course, if you get down to the end and you're Whitey Herzog, it's very comforting to know you've got a man by the name of Suter ready. Littell wasn't quite ready that time.
I'm sure that Herzog would like to get as much out of Littell as he can, too, though, Al, and everybody knows what Suter is, and this guy is a guy they'd really love to have back.
A strike to Maddox, and the count 0-1.
I was talking a moment ago, Al, before we went away for the break in the inning, about Bob Boone talking about catchers getting the slumps like hitters do.
Loop to right field, but curling and going foul.
It really gets to be an aggravating thing when you start throwing bad. You know, you try to overcompensate. Normally, you try to get the ball out of the glove and throw it across the seam where the ball doesn't sail. It stays true on you. But you start throwing sidearm to get rid of the ball to compensate for a runner's speed. It sinks, it sails on you, and you really get yourself in a bad rut, and it's tough to get out of it. And Boone, as I said earlier, has always been one of the better throwing catchers in baseball.
remember when you were in a slump as a catcher, you tried to get out of it with a knuckleball, didn't you?
You can say that again. 3 of them. Schultz, Tiefenauer, and Negro.
Gary MADDOX with a check swing and a miss, and down he goes. And the out is officially recorded at first base. MADDOX remained at the plate, not believing that the plate umpire, Nick Pelosi, had called him out swinging.
Now we get one more look at it. Pitch up and in. Oh, yeah.
Yep, came around.
Yeah. That brings back a lot of memories. Both ways.
Yep, I was going to say.
I know you were. That's why I said it before you did.
Larry BOWA looks at a strike, and the count 0-1.
Sum up your whole career on one pitch.
That's it. That's it. Offense and defense. 0-2. Larry BOWA, contact hitter, as you all know. Struck out only 7 times thus far this season. Count remains 0-2. It's interesting. Sometime next year, assuming he stays healthy, Larry BOWA will become the all-time leader in games played in a Philadelphia uniform. Richie Ashburn holds that mark now.
How many more games are we talking about, Al?
Well, let's see. BOWA has been in 1,691 games. Ashburn 1,794, so you're dealing with 103. So assuming he stays healthy, sometime maybe next June.
Right.
Hit on the ground, fair by Hernandez. Into the corner. BOWA is on his way to second. Here comes the throw, not in time. Philly fans have something to get excited about. Larry BOWA hitting it just there.
One more time, Al. You talked about BOWA being a contact hitter. It was a tough pitch to hit, down and in. Breaking ball down and in from Littell by Hernandez. Here it is one more time now. It's a slider down and in. Just got the bat on the ball, hit it by Hernandez, and LEZCANO made a good play. And it ended up a close play at second base. There's a great throw by LEZCANO. He picked that ball up, turned, and fired to Templeton, but too late for BOWA.
So Larry at second. Bob Boone is the batter. 1 out in the 7th inning. Boone has walked and popped out. A strike. 0-1. Del Unser out on deck to bat for Sparky Lyle. Mike Crowley was up along with Ron Reed in the Philadelphia bullpen. Hit in the air to center field. Hendrick coming on and staggers but stays with it. So 2 down, and up comes Unser with Pete Rose moving into the on-deck circle. Del Unser, one of the big heroes last season in postseason play for Philadelphia. Coming up with 2 out in the bottom of the 7th inning, Larry BOWA, the runner at second. Cardinals ahead 5-1. Half swing and a miss. 0-1. Pete Rose, who is 0-3, on deck.
Here again is that slider down and in. Talking about it earlier, the good slider is a ball that breaks down and into a left-handed batter from a right-handed pitcher. That was a good one from Littell. And he basically tried to stay inside, and again with the fastball away, Al. He can run a fastball away from a left-handed batter also. There it is.
Hit in the air to left field. Landrum is there, moving toward the line, and makes the catch. So Rose will be leading off in the 8th inning. He while the Phillies squander a double by BOWA, only their third hit of the night, and we'll go to the eighth inning with the Cardinals still on top, 5-1. As we go to the eighth inning at Philadelphia, the Cardinals on top, 5-1, and changes for Philadelphia. Brand new battery as Mike Proley comes into pitch. The third Philadelphia pitcher tonight. Keith Moreland will be doing the catching in place of Bob Boone. And Del Unser, who pinch hit for Sparky Lyle, stays in the game. He's playing center field. George Hendrick leading off for the Cardinals in the eighth inning. Looks at a strike. Hendrick has struck out, flied out, homered to right. There's Unser in center. Grounded to second. Manny Trillo with that sidearm shot to first. One away. Luis Aguayo also in the lineup for the Phillies at shortstop as BOWA comes out. And Mark Littell looks at a strike. Littell, when he entered the game, came in simultaneously with Landrum and thus is hitting in the 5 spot. 0-2 the count. The Expos defeat the Pirates on opening day of Act 2 up north, 3-1. Bill Lee picks up the win over Pascual Perez. And Littell is disposed of rapidly, quickly 2 down. Crowd tonight in Montreal was 37,000. Andre Dawson hit his 14th home run of the season. 2 out, bases empty, and Ken Oberkfell. Perfect night, single, double, walk. Looks at a strike. Oberkfell in his 3rd full season. He's been a 300 hitter in each of his first 2 full years, 301 and 303 respectively. Bouncer to second. Manny Trillo throws him out to the delight of the crowd because they're impatient for Rose to come up. And that's exactly what will happen because Pete will lead off in the bottom of the 8th inning with the Cardinals leading the Phillies 5-1. 5-1, the Cardinals on top. Bottom of the 8th inning. St. Louis with 12 hits, and the Phillies have 3. None by Pete Rose, who will be leading things off against Mark Littell. And again, for those of you watching the Reds and the Dodgers, Pete Rose coming up here in the bottom of the 8th inning to face reliever Mark Littell. Rose 0 for 3 tonight in 3 appearances against Bob Forge. Pete got a board on an error in the 1st inning, grounded out in the 3rd. Forge made a nice play, and then grounded out routinely in the 5th. So Rose trying to break the tie with Musial. Facing Littell in the 8th, and looks at a strike. 0-1.
Now, there's so many people pulling for Rose here at this ballpark tonight. How many people come to that game? There's a youngster. That's Petey Jr.
The strike 1 pitch to Rose. Bouncer to the hole. There it is. Come out onto the field.
All right, Steve, we're happy for you. Congratulations. Hope you get many more.
I'll go make it stay another day.
Oh, no, that's great. Good. I'm happy for you. Good.
The fireworks, the rousing, standing, throbbing ovation from a crowd of close to 60,000. Pete Rose, his career began in 1963. At age 40, a true period piece. $3,631 to pass Musial. Next up, Aaron. If he stays healthy, that should come time next season.
Oh, this is really great, Al. It really is. History made here tonight. I had such a kick out of watching Aaron hit 500 and 600, and now to be able to be here tonight and watch this historic moment by Pete Rose, it's really great.
So Pete Rose does it on his 4th at-bat with a clean single to left field. He's all alone at the top. So the game, somewhat anticlimactically now, goes on. Manny Trillo takes a pitch high, 1-0. The ovation, meanwhile, continues. Foul away. 1-1 the count.
I was going to say earlier, Al, right before Rose got the base hit, how many times do fans get to a ballpark? You know, you look for that one great night, the big night when you can take your boys or your girls or youngsters, say, hopefully it's going to be tonight. We may not be able to get to the park anymore this week, this homestand, this summer, whatever, and it happened tonight. A lot of happy folks here.
Top foul. 1 ball, 2 strikes. You've got to be happy also for Pete. It comes not only before 60,000 here, but it comes in front of a national television audience so that several more million can look on as you see it again. Number 3,631 for Rose.
One more time, Mark Littell with a fastball and Rose to the opposite field for history.
Trillo goes down swinging. 1 down. In a way, a bit of a vintage Pete Rose hit. Between them.
Yes, sir.
Solid. Goes with a pitch.
Hit the ball well. A good fastball from Littell out over the plate and went the other way.
Doesn't try to jack it out. Wants to start a rally leading off in the inning. Even things like that aren't lost upon Pete. The fact that he's leading off in an inning and he just wants to get on board.
Yes, sir.
Ronnie Smith, the batter.
It was interesting when he set the music. He said, I thought you were going to have to stay another night. Here he is again, the fastball, and Rose to the opposite field. How about the gracious Stan Musial, too, as you look one more time at Rose. He was right out there with the rest of the Philadelphia Philly ball club and some great words for Rose. He said, I hope you get many, many more.
So the crowd still rocking. 1-1 to count on Lonnie Smith, and now it's 2-1 as the pitch misses inside.
One more time for Pete Rose. History here at Veterans Stadium. The fastball from Littell, a diving Ken Oberkefell, past Tepson, the base hit. Yeah, kick out of that sign that was held up. Congratulations, Pete. That used to be a white sign. It turned yellow from the strike. 2 months ago, that was white.
A lot of things have been in storage.
It gets old.
2-2 the count.
Stand the man Musial.
Yeah, you have to be happy that a man like Musial was here. As Smith on a check lane hits one to left field for a base hit. Rose will pull in a second. So in addition to getting the crowd all stirred up, the Phillies try to get back in it. Trailing 5-1. And Philadelphia with runners at first and second. But Musial is a man of such class.
Always.
Of course, his nickname, we told you all you needed to know about Musial, is simply the man. Man of dignity and style. There he is. And here tonight to witness the breaking of a truly remarkable record. Whitey Herzog on his way out to the mound. Cardinals have Suter in the bullpen.
And again, Pete Rose. Tremendous concentration. How many times have you heard that with Rose? And as Al said earlier, to try and get something going, a solid base hit, not trying to jerk the ball to right field. The pitch was out away from him. He went with it. You see a very happy Ruben Amaro, first base coach of the Philadelphia Phillies, but Rose reached first.
Seems like almost every time we've been at a Phillies game in the past 3 years, Pete is on the threshold of yet another record
All
or
the time.
number or
Yes,
moving up a place in the all-time rankings in a particular category. Truly one of a kind. He really is. And I think the marvelous thing is that everybody now is starting to appreciate Rose. 0-1 on Schmidt. When Pete first came up, and even through the middle part of Pete's career, there was a lot of animosity toward Pete. He was the object of some scorn, and unfortunately, physically, of missiles in places like Los Angeles and the Shea Stadium in New York. But he's come to be appreciated by just about everyone. Hit into center for a base hit. Rose around third. He'll score as Hendrick has trouble coming up with it. 5-2.
Schmidt with a solid base hit up the middle off Mark Littell. And the Phillies now trailing by 3 at 5-2 as Hendrick bobbles that ball, but Rose would have scored anyway. But if Hendrick does not bobble, Smith does not go to third. That's where he is right now.
Herzog will make a pitching change. Some of the crowd chanting Pete, 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 and the rhythmic applause. Herzog will go to the bullpen and bring in Bruce Suter. Well, I guess the color of the hair has changed, and certainly the hairstyle has changed, and maybe there are a few more wrinkles. But basically, he's still a pup.
The rest of it is the same.
Yep.
You betcha.
Same attitude, same enthusiasm.
You know, Al, you were talking a moment ago about some of the players and fans, I guess, the animosity created by Pete Rose. But, you know, guys who were in the league when Pete Rose came into baseball, into the major league, hadn't seen anybody do the things that he did. Run to first base wide open with a walk. You know, you hadn't seen anybody do that. And guys said, what is this guy? You know, what is this? Well, he's been that way from day one. He still does it. He's been that way all the time. And his style of play, he can aggravate you sometimes. I know catching behind him, and you want to beat him. I mean, you want to beat, it gets to a point where you want to beat Pete Rose. You don't worry about the team, you want to beat Pete Rose. And I think many managers have taken that issue with Pete, with his style of play.
But I think we've seen a tremendous transformation, though. There's a tremendous amount of peer respect. When you talk to players about Pete Rose, it's always with a great deal of admiration and respect. There he is again, responding to a curtain call.
I'll tell you the one thing about him, too, Al, he has never let his personal records or his goals overshadow anything with his team, no matter Cincinnati or Philadelphia. He's been that kind of a guy. He really has.
He's aware of them, certainly. Nobody is more aware of what he has done individually than Pete. And yet it's always, as you say, in a team context. Meanwhile, Gary Matthews swings and misses. Bruce Suter on in relief. Matthews at the plate representing the tying run. The Cardinals on top 5-2. 1-1 the count. Lonnie Smith at third. And Mike Schmidt at first. Infield double play depth. Foul back. 1-2. chopper to the hole, backhanded by Templeton. He does get the force, but the Phillies get another run. Lonnie Smith scoring from third to make it 5-3. And there are 2 down now with Matthews aboard on the force at first base. Keith Moreland batting in the number 6 spot, coming up for the first time tonight.
Nice play by Templeton, too, Al, to go deep into the hole and make that throw. A perfect throw to second to get Schmidt with a force play with a run scoring.
Fly ball to right field. Deeper than LEZCANO thought, but he had time to recover and makes the catch. So getting the Phillies settled for a couple. And for the inning in Philadelphia, Stan the man in his box near the Philadelphia dugout. Of course, out on the field to congratulate Rose. The record has been broken. Pete now with 3,631 career hits. Hank Aaron would be next for Pete Rose. Aaron, of course, spent the latter stages of his career in the American League and had left the Braves before he had a chance to eclipse Musial's mark. SIXTO LEZCANO, the batter, fouls the first pitch away and the count 0-1. Rose now is 36-31. Aaron had 3,771, so Pete is 140 shy. Ty Cobb, of course, the all-time leader at 4,191. So Rose needs 140 to tie Aaron and 560 to tie Cobb. One ball, 2 strikes on LEZCANO. Gene Tenace on deck. 9th inning, 5-3, St. Louis. 2-2 the count. Mike Crowley, the third Philadelphia pitcher. Christensen started, and we saw Lyle. Hit deep to left center field. Well back. Unser all the way back and off the very top of the wall and gone. Came back in off the canvas. Eric Gregg, the second base umpire, out there to make the signal. The ball cleared the yellow stripe and bounced back from the canvas. So LEZCANO has quieted the crowd with his 3rd home run of the season and the Cardinals' 3rd home run of the night. And it's 6-3, St. Louis. Another look. Unser going all the way back and running out of room. And there's a little bit of space between the yellow line on the top of the wall and the canvas, and as you can see, cleared it by plenty. Gene Tenace, the batter, had stepped out, so no pitch. Time had been called. Nick Colosi looking up in toward the mezzanine level. There was a light on earlier. Cannot detect what the problem is at the moment. Whatever it was, it has been remedied.
Micah!
Gene Tenace, 0 for 3. High in the air to deep left field. This one's got a chance. Matthews going back, and the Cardinals have hit 4 in the game. Gene Tenace, it's his 2nd home run of the season. The Cardinals have now banged out 14 hits. And the 4 homers in a game, the most by the Cardinals in any one game this season. Mike Crowley, who had set St. Louis down in order in the 8th inning, getting bombed here in the 9th by LEZCANO and Tenace. And Tito Landrum will be the batter. Phillies have Tug McGraw working in the bullpen. Cards 7, Phillies 3. Nobody out at the top of the 9th inning. the count. The attendance tonight is 60,561. Chopper, going to be a tough play, and Aguayo can't even get there for a base hit. So Landrum on with a single. 15 hits for the Cards. And Gary Templeton, who has 2 of those, will come up. A reminder on Nightline coming up shortly. More on the air traffic controllers strike, including an interview with the president of the Canadian Air Traffic Controllers Union that refused to clear flights through United States airspace. Also an interview with Bowie Kuhn coming up tonight on Nightline. 0-1 on Templeton. Schmidt playing up at third. Cardinals on top. 7-3. Templeton laying down the bunt to move the runner along. Crowley will make the play as Trio covers at first. 1-4 on the sacrifice as Landrum advances 90 feet. One away, Landrum at second base. And Tom HERR, the batter. HERR 1-for-4. The Cardinals in the first half of the season finishing second. Game and a half back. And coming out of the box tonight with 15 hits. Some very good pitching, in particular by Bob FORSCH, who worked 5 innings and allowed just 1 run and 1 hit. And with some power. 4 homers tonight for St. Louis. 1-0 on HERR. Fouled away. And the count 1-1. Part of the crowd leaving. They came to see Rose get his hit. They saw it. The hour is getting late. The 1-1 pitch is outside. 2-1. And even a giant fireworks display, which the Phillies have planned for after the game. Won't deter those who are heading for the exits. 2-1 the count. Throw back second. Landrum, the runner there. Kansas City and Baltimore tied 2-2 in the 12th inning. White Sox a winner, beat Boston 7-1. Milwaukee and Cleveland tied up in the 10th. 2-2. 3-1 the count. Yankees beat Texas 2-0. Tommy John going 8 innings in that one to pick up the win. The Tigers beat Toronto 4-3. And Minnesota leading Oakland 6-2 in the 8th inning. Broken bat bouncer to Manny Trillo. The runner will advance, and there are 2 down. So Landrum moves over to third. And with 2 away, it'll bring up Keith Hernandez. Hernandez tonight with a home run in the first. Followed that up with a base hit in the 4th inning and scored a run. 2-for-4. For the Phillies, bottom of the order in the 9th inning. The 7th, 8th, and 9th hitters, meaning that if anybody gets aboard, we'll get another look at Rose. 1-0 the count.
When you disconnect your camera, roll up that wire the best way you can and tape it.
Landrum at third, 2 down. 7-3 St. Louis in the top of the 9th inning. One and one. Low, ball 2. 2-1. Reminder, your local news to follow the game, and then ABC News Nightline on most of these stations. Half swing. Did he check? They appeal at third. Don't get the call there. Doug Harvey said he didn't come around, and it's 3-1. Doug Harvey, by the way, he was behind the plate the day that Stan Musial picked up his 3,630th hit. As you take a look at Hernandez holding up in time. And Harvey in the park tonight, umpiring at third as Rose breaks the record. Hernandez, a bouncer down at 3-0. Bottom of the 9th inning at Philadelphia. Luis Aguayo to lead things off with the Phillies. His first trip to the plate tonight and fouls it away. 0-1 the count. New catcher for St. Louis, Glenn Brummer. Rookie has gone in back of the plate. As Bruce Sutter, who works out of a stretch, even with nobody on base, is ahead quickly on Aguayo at 0-2. Aguayo, sparingly used utility infielder, came on in place of Larry BOWA. Been up only 48 times this season, batting 167. Hit to left field, but right there is Landrum, and he makes the catch for the out. Tito had a problem for a moment. It's tough sometimes here in Philadelphia with the lights. Looked like Landrum momentarily lost it. Meanwhile, Rose, hopeful that somebody can get aboard so Pete can get another crack at it. Alan Roth back with us, our premier statistician, doing his usual job tonight. Man who saw plenty of Stan Musial over the years. And now Rose tonight after a 2-month layoff.
All right, let's go!
Dick Davis fouls it at the plate, and the count 0-1. Davis pinch hitting for Crowley. Talked about Dick before, coming over from the Brewers, and as you can see, when he's been called upon, he's responded marvelously, batting .379. 1-1 the count. And Pete Rose Jr. at the age of 12. Line to left field and deep, and this one is over Landrum's head as Tito plays it on a hop. And moving into second base is Davis with a double. First hit off Bruce Sutter. And unless Del Unser lines into a double play, or Davis gets picked off, we're going to get see Pete Rose again. Del Unser up for the second time. Flied out as a pinch hitter in the 7th inning and stayed in the game. 1-0 the count. St. Louis 7, Philadelphia 3, with the Roses on deck. 2-0 the count. Pop up. Templeton, the shortstop, calling. And there are 2 down. So 2 away, and it's up to Rose to keep it going. And another standing O evolving for Pete. By the way, lost in the shuffle would be the fact that Rose now has a 15-game hitting streak. Just another number. Hit in his last 14 before the strike, and then tonight. He tries to bunt his way on. 0-1. Just to chronicle what Rose did tonight for late tuners in, he reached on an error in the first inning, a high chopper that Gary Templeton couldn't handle. Was thrown out by FORSCH on a comebacker in the third. Grounded out routinely in the fifth, and then a clean base hit to left in the eighth. 0-2 the count. So Pete Rose going into the Bucks with an 8th inning single, 15 against Mark Littell. 0-2 on Rose. The Cardinals 7 runs, 15 hits, and 2 errors. Philadelphia 3 runs, 7 hits, and no errors. FORSCH the winner, Christensen the loser. I mentioned we had hoped that Bob Uecker would be able to talk with Pete Rose. You can see, however, that mob scene in the Philadelphia dugout where we were set up for the interview, so they have ushered Rose back into the clubhouse, and we will not be able to get a word from Pete, but you did indeed see the base hit to make it 36 to